Hi everyone. Welcome to module slash week 10. Um, Nothing specific or unique this time around. We're going to continue learning about fragments for this module. Specifically, we're going to look at, we're going to focus on two different things. We're going to focus on more we're going to take a deeper look at managing fragments. More so, we're going to analyze fragment transactions as well as how fragments maintain state information, data that's stored within them, as well as how the fragment itself can be retained by its parent, its container, its host. So, in most cases, that's an activity, but we always want to keep in mind that whereas we might just for shorthand say that a fragment is stored in an activity, we always want to keep in mind that a fragment can be stored in another fragment. So you can, if you hear one, just think both. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at building dynamic user interfaces, again, based on fragments, where we factor in alternate resources, specifically alternate layouts to provision containers for different fragments depending on the context that the configuration that the device is in. And we're also going to look at sort of extending this idea of storing information. We're going to look at view models, which is this sort of externalized container to store data. And when you hear container, just think of being able to store lots of different types of information all at once. And you're going to see how a view model can serve as this sort of centralized point that an activity can access, as well as all the fragments contained in that activity. So it sort of becomes this intermediary, allowing indirect communication between fragments and the parent host activity. We're also going to look at using a specific type of data wrapper. So when you hear the term wrapper, just think of a class whose job it is to hold one other piece of information. It wraps around it. So you can have an integer and a wrapper around that integer, or a string, a wrapper around that string, or an array, or an object that you define in your own class. You can create an instance of that and then wrap something around it. So that wrapper is something called a live data. And you're going to see live data and view models working in tandem, where view model serves as the top level container, and we can store anything in a view model: strings, booleans, any sort of primitives, any sort of object. But we can also store these live data objects, which are themselves wrappers around other data types. And you're going to see the purpose of a live data object is to sort of allow the data that it's wrapping to be observed. The observer pattern is basically allowing external components to be notified when the data element being observed changes. So a live data is a way for other components to be notified that something has happened to the data in your application. This can serve a lot of purposes, but the overarching purpose in this scenario usually has to do with keeping your user interface in sync with the state of your application, making sure that if some value is set, the user interface of your application is cognizant of that and responds to that change to make sure that the user is always seeing what they're supposed to be seeing based on your application state. We have our final assignment 6. And sorry, we have an assignment 6, and I'll talk more about this next week, but to just as a sort of heads up, that assignment 6 will be the final discrete assignment, meaning it's the last assignment where you're just building from, well, let me go back. It's the last assignment where you're just building an idea and moving on. What you're going to find is that for the remaining assignments in this course, assignments 7 through 10, there will actually be building towards a single application where every subsequent app uses the previous application as its base. So application 7 will be greenfield. You'll start with nothing. Assignment 8 will build on assignment 7. Assignment 9 will build on assignment 8. And finally, assignment 10 will build on assignment 9. Again, I'll talk about all of this next week, so this is really just a heads up so you can mentally prepare. And also, please don't worry, you'll be given starter code in each of these instances. So for assignment 8, when you're starting out, you will get a working implementation of assignment 7, which for the most part, should match the solution video that you would have seen for assignment 7. If there are any changes, they'll be superfluous or cosmetic to some degree. Right, and that's done, of course, because you would not have had your assignments. So in the example I've given, immediately after submitting assignment 7, you would not have had it graded and wouldn't necessarily know if it meets all the criteria that was necessary to build from there. So you'll always be given a starting assignment. So don't worry about the state of your own prior submission. There is no quiz this week, so we're just focused on assignments and the topic videos. Again, we're still sort of we hope to close out fragments with this module. If there are any questions or anything you'd like me to sort of touch on again or expand on, let me know. I will say that on a personal note, so this week particular, I am actually otherwise predisposed. I'll be at a conference for most of the week, so that has some implications, not a whole lot, since this course is asynchronous and is done remotely. So where I'm physically located may not matter that much. However, I would want to give you a heads up that I may not be as quick to respond to emails as I tend to ask for 24 hours to respond to an email, but I've tried and for the most part succeeded to sort of keep that number pretty low so far. But if you send me an email this week, just be prepared for a slight delay. So perhaps this week more than any other week, if you can get your messages and so forth into your queries into me earlier rather than later, just to factor in the potential delays while I'm at my conference out of state. So yeah, I believe that's pretty much it. Again, all the germane information relating to assignments 7 through 10 I will touch on in more detail next week. So for now, just focus on this assignment. This one is focused more on resources and alternate resources. So you can go back and review those videos to get some insight. And again, make sure that you're getting the concepts of fragments and all of the related components and topics under your belt. Fragments will play a relatively large role in the upcoming assignments, 7 through 10. Not entirely, not in each of them, but in a fair number of them. All right. As always, if you have any questions, just send me an email, and good luck.